Welcome to episode 33 of the LAN Partners Podcast. I'm your host, Connor, and I got Matt with me today.
Hello.
No, Dave. It's just Matt and I. Like I said on episode 32, our Tuesday episode, we are coming at you with a bonus episode of a spoiler review of Wolfenstein 2, the new Colossus. Matt, I am excited about this.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Do not listen if you have not played this game. Spoiler alert.
It's a LAN Partners first.
Yeah, this is our first spoiler episode. Again, reminder, if you have not played this game and you plan on playing this game, please do not listen. We are talking nothing. We are holding no punches. We are spoiling the entire game. So do not listen if you have not played it.
Please don't.
All right, you've been warned. So I don't want to see any emails or messages saying, God, these guys spoil everything. We're warning you right now. All right, so let's just jump right into it. Wolfenstein 2, New Colossus. Just quick recap. Machine Games developed, Bethesda published. It's the sequel to Wolfenstein New Order.
Yes.
It was released on October 27th. Let's just jump right into it.
Let's do it.
All right, so the opening sequence is when they pretty much just recap the New Order game. Mm-hmm. And they do a really good recap because, you know, I played it this year, luckily, but for someone who hasn't played it in a while, like it's good.
It helped me, yeah.
Yeah, it's good to see all that stuff again, especially since the game takes place right after the closing of New Order.
Right.
And they even have to make you redo one of those decisions from New Order, which was either save Wyatt or save Fergus. So I remember in the game, in New Order, when I originally played it, Matt, I originally saved Fergus. So I wanted to keep it consistent with what I did in New Order, so I saved Fergus again. Who did you save?
In the original, I saved Fergus, and then I didn't remember that decision. And then when I played New Colossus, I actually saved Wyatt.
All right, so we see, this is good that we're talking about this because I went with Fergus, you went with Wyatt. You wouldn't think a decision like that would make such a big difference, but
it does. We found out that it does.
A huge difference in the game. Just talking to you about some things that happen, you would be like, I don't even know what you're talking about. I'm like, that. What do you like? This is a huge moment in the game. Like, how do you not know? And it's because of those two characters. So it's going to be interesting to hear how everything plays out between you and me. I mean, I'm sure not going to be like a gigantic difference, but between those two characters, it's going to be a big difference.
Right.
Also, in the opening sequences, so the way the game opens, they do the New Order flashback, and then you're on. So at the end of New Order, BJ gets like just a huge explosion. Yeah. And he's out of commission. So the game opens with you in like a surgery room and everyone's doing some surgery on you and you're kind of in and out. And it goes to a flashback of when he was a kid. Now, do you remember this flashback?
You can refresh my memory a little bit because I'm thinking of other flashbacks.
There's a lot of flashbacks, but the first one, he's in a closet and the dad is yelling at the mom.
Yep.
About hanging out with like a black kid in the neighborhood or whatever, and
a black girl,
the mom's trying to protect BJ. And then so the dad gets to you, takes you down to the basement, and he makes you shoot his dog.
His dog, which is I mean, right off the bat, you're like, this game's already pushing me to like uncomfortable levels. And I think I actually, when we played that part, I kind of like sat there like, do I even have to do this?
I know.
And then, no, the game, you have to.
What did you aim the shotgun at the dog, or did you aim away? Because I aimed away.
I aimed away as well.
Oh yeah,
I aimed
it's still
at like the wall to the left. Yeah,
same thing happens.
Yeah,
because I tried. I'm like,
you can't aim too far.
Yeah,
but I try to aim away from it. It's still.
Yeah, because I aimed away, but like the dad, like it still kills the dog, and the dad, like
he's like trying to teach you some lesson or something.
Yeah, it was a powerful way to open the game. Like you're a kid, and you have to shoot your childhood dog, and I felt the emotional attachment.
It hit me because like I just got a dog a few months ago, and I'm like, damn, I can't imagine doing that.
Yeah, it was powerful. So that. Right off the bat, in the opening prologue, it's like, okay, this game is different feel already.
Here we go, yeah.
So then you're in your wheelchair, you become conscious, you're in the wheelchair, Nazis are invading the ship, and you're just trying to fight through in a wheelchair.
In a wheelchair.
And the most interesting part is, here's Blazkowicz, just a superhero kind of character.
Yeah.
And he's in a wheelchair, super vulnerable to everything.
Well, the cool thing about that was he has only a maximum of 50 health.
Mm-hmm.
So usually you have 100 that you can max out at. But I think they were trying to push home that he's in bad shape. So they only had you at 50. You could collect health to go over 50, but as you get over 50, it just slowly keeps decreasing unless you keep picking up more. So, yeah, I mean, from the get-go, you're like struggling.
Yeah, it was crazy because, like I said, the superhero BJ is in a wheelchair and you're wheeling around shooting Nazis with like a pistol gun.
Yeah, a little pistol.
So that was just, I mean, the whole prologue was just like, oh my God, this is crazy.
Yeah.
And then, so you get to the top, and so the Nazis are invading the ship, and Frau Engel is, in the spotlight here.
Yeah.
Where you see her for the first time, and I don't know if you noticed this, but her face is completely cleared up.
Oh, okay. I didn't notice that.
You didn't notice that?
No.
Okay, because if you remember from the first one, that moment where her face gets all messed up, remember how like her mouth was like ripped off?
Yeah, I do remember that.
Her face is completely fine.
I think I had noticed a little bit of like scarring maybe, like, but she got it fixed, like repaired.
You must have not like remembered as much because I recently played New Order like a couple months ago, and I think when did you play New Order, like when it first came out?
Yeah, I mean probably a couple of years ago.
So I don't think you remembered as much, just because I remember like they were really highlighting it in the beginning of New Colossus when they first showed her. Like they zoomed in on her face to show you, like, look at her face, like it is 100%. Well, I don't think it was 100% fine, but it was leaps and bounds different than her face on New Order.
But you were able to see that a lot easier than I was.
So I thought that was interesting, and she has either Wyatt or Fergus, depending on who you saved, and Caroline held up. So basically, Blazkowicz is just like, okay, like I give up, take me.
Yep.
So they take him, and here's where the game gets real.
Even more real than it already was.
So we're captured, and Caroline, if you remember, Caroline has that like power suit, which is,
it's like it reminds me of like an exosuit from Crisis,
right?
Where you have like all these powers with it.
It's basically like a bulletproof suit.
Yeah,
head to
super
toe.
Armor. Yeah.
And she's out of the suit, and Frau Engel takes an axe and cuts off Caroline's head.
She does. And it's like, it just all happens so quick. Like it's just like there's no real like build up. Like, I mean, she's talking about, I'm going to do this, but then, and everyone's like, no, don't do it, but she just does it, and you're like, okay, you think maybe someone's going to step in and help or something, but nope, she chops her head right off.
Yeah, and she takes the head and starts shaking it in front of you, and it's terrible. But then here's where they introduce a new character, which becomes important, which is Frau Engel's daughter, Sigrun.
Yes. Yep.
How did you feel about this additional character?
So I'm sure we'll get into her a little bit later too, but yeah, she ends up being like, because Frau Engel is so just the devil and corrupt and insane that she decides with her own self, because she's the game portrays her, she's this like out of shape, kind of dorky like girl, and mom's this leader of power and deceit and corruption and all this stuff, and she ends up going against her mom and helping, or saying, at the time we didn't know for sure what her motives were, but she says she's going to help you escape. So she ends up being a character that helps you along the way, and she actually stays with you throughout the game.
Well, here's where it gets interesting. Before she leads the escape, in my version with Fergus, she's about to go either, I think, hit Blazkowicz with the axe, or she makes Sigrun pick up the axe to do it herself. And
she makes her do it herself.
She can't do it, so Sigrun puts the axe down, can't do it, so then Frau Engel does it. And then she's going to do it to, I can't remember if it was Blazkowicz or Fergus, but anyway, Sigrun comes in, hits the axe out, and that's, in my version of Fergus, his arm gets cut off at that part. So then Fergus loses his arm there because of Sigrun, but then they escape, like you were saying, with Sigrun.
Oh, okay.
So in my version, he gets, and then you said that Wyatt just gets a scar from it, right?
Wyatt gets like hit in the head, and it like it kind of messes him up, but it doesn't. he doesn't lose any limbs or anything like that.
So after that scene, they kind of get out of there with Sigram, Fergus, or Wyatt, and they all escape. And then you get to Eva's hammer, which is actually...
Well, and you put on the suit.
Oh, right. I almost...
Yeah, you put on the suit that Caroline dropped. And it helps Blazkowicz actually walk. Because it like makes him feel like he's 100%, even though he's not.
He could not walk without the suit. That's why he was in the wheelchair, and then he was crawling when he got out of the like dragging himself when he got out of the wheelchair. So this suit allows him to walk and be semi-normal, but he just throughout the whole game up to a certain point, he just feels like he's just dying and dying and dying.
That's what I thought. I was going to say that the game does a really good job. And this is a good thing we're doing the spoiler, because I would never say this on the non-spoiler review. It just did a really good job of me feeling like, man, he is just kind of like just old and battered up, you know, like he's just been through his times coming up, you know, and he reminds you throughout the game because he has these little narrations where he's talking to himself kind of.
He's talking to Caroline most of the time.
Yeah, but it's like to himself. Right. And he's like saying, I'm old and busted up. My time's running up. You know, he'll say stuff like that. And I was like, man, it really does make me feel like, yeah, he is not doing good right now.
There's even a scene that we'll get to a little bit later where he says to Anya, like, I'm dying, like, I don't know. And Anya's and they reveal Anya's pregnant with twins.
Right.
So, like, he still has that burden on him, like, I'm dying, like, I don't know if I'll be around for the twins and Anya. And there's just a way heavier tone to this game.
Just emotion,
to the New Order. New Order was, let's kill all the Nazis and win this war and free America, where this one is like, yeah, the Nazis are still there, but now you have this tone of like, what's going to happen with Blazkowicz? He can't go on much longer. You know, how much longer can they survive hiding and trying to free everybody?
There seemed to be like more at stake personally for him. You know, before, I mean, America is a personal issue, but like in his own personal circle of people, there was just more personal issues. So it made you feel that much more for him.
Yeah, then they start working in all these flashbacks. We'll talk about more in a little bit. So after that, you know, main sequence, the prologue, you get to Eva's hammer, and I just want to talk about Eva's hammer a little bit more, because in the first one, if you remember, there was like a hideout, and there was little things in there. When the hideout, like you could walk around all the room. Everyone had a bedroom, and you could see different things, read different articles, and kind of interact with all the different characters. Eva's hammer takes this a step above, like a whole world above,
like a labyrinth of stuff.
Just to name a few things, when I got to this part, I probably sank an hour or two just walking around, doing the different things. And for example, there is in the first one, I'll talk about this, New Order. There's a nightmare sequence where if you lay on a mattress, you have a nightmare, and you actually play Wolfenstein 3D from like the original Wolfenstein, like the 1990s. They do the same thing in this one. There's a Wolfenstein arcade cabinet. I tried playing through a couple levels of that. I played that for about 30 minutes. There are shooting ranges, obstacle courses, basically. There's tons of collectibles. There's this Enigma code machine. All the characters are in these different spots. Like, it's crazy how much there is in Eva's hammer this time around.
Yeah, and the cool thing about it is like every time, even if you're walking by, because there's the main characters of your group who you get to go and actually interact with. You have a button to say like, let me talk to them or whatever. But then even if you're just walking around and there's other NPCs that you can't really hit anything to interact with, they'll still have like a conversation going on that with someone else that's standing by that you can sit there and listen to. And it's like a meaningful conversation because it's just about how their life has been impacted by what's going on. Or, I mean, they have funny stuff in there too. There's some comical things too. And it's just really like the space feels alive. You know, it doesn't feel like it's just some hollowed out room for you just to make it feel like you're in some hideout. Like it really felt like there was moving parts and people doing their part and everyone's trying to help. And they did a really good job. Like they went over the top in terms of the detail.
I just hope everyone appreciates it as much as I did, because I thought it was awesome. I spent so much extra time. There's even little side quests at one point. It was really strange. The only my major complaint though of this part was the map was really hard to read.
The map was not good.
No, the map was terrible. There was no really way to put a waypoint or really know what the item, like for example, there was one side quest a little bit later on where I had to feed this pig.
I did that one too.
I couldn't do it though. I had no idea like where
you didn't figure it out?
No, where was the food?
There was the part where there's like the bar.
Yeah.
Like it's like a cafeteria almost looking place.
I went there.
There's like a little room in the back where it's like where they store the food, and there's boxes of potatoes, and you can pick them up, and then you can bring them back.
It could have done a lot better. I'm not going to complain too much about that, but it was frustrating because I wanted to do more.
It took me a while.
But I couldn't figure out like this waypoint, because I went to a waypoint once and it was like to the main mission to like exit that level and go to the next actual mission. I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. Like, where do I go here? Yeah. So that was a little frustrating, but nothing.
Well, when I brought him back to the pig, it was a little cutscene of him like handing the potato to the pig, and then it just goes off and eats it. But like there was no reward or anything. It was just like mission completed. It wasn't really anything special. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't want to spend too much time doing those if the reward wasn't even going to be worth it.
Yeah, it was more just like satisfaction of feeding the pig.
Yeah, but I was just floored at how interactive Eva's hammer was.
It was very impressive.
The arcade cabinet was awesome.
Yeah, that's really cool, and they always throw little things in there like that.
Yeah, it was really neat. It was done very well. And then after that, they kind of just do like a tutorial mission basically where there's Nazis hiding in the ship and you have to go through and kill them.
Right, yeah.
And nothing too much there, but then you get back and they do the Caroline remembrance moment because, she obviously got her head chopped off.
Yeah.
But they did have this moment, and it's a pretty deep moment because everyone's just kind of like, all right, well, we just lost basically our leader.
Right.
That was Caroline.
I think are they carrying her body? I can't remember.
No, yes, he's carrying her headless body.
Yeah,
and
he's carrying that.
Puts her in like a torpedo or something and launches her out to sea.
Yeah.
So then for the rest of the game, up until a certain point, which we'll get to, you were in this suit that Caroline was using that's keeping you alive.
Yeah.
How did you feel about the moments of him talking to Caroline through the suit?
It's like it depended. Like sometimes it was kind of like goosebumps moments, because like he, just the way they did it. Like I don't know if it was just my TV or the game, but like the volume would significantly increase when he would talk to himself like that, like when he was in the suit, and his voice. I don't know who the voice actor is for him, but like the way he would just enunciate things, and he had that like southern draw, and like I don't know, it just made me like. Everything just felt so like depressing almost, like the way he would say things about missing her or like trying to let her know, like, I'm going to get this done, like I'm going to do it for you, that kind of thing. I was just like, wow. Like, I don't know.
That's kind of what we talked about how he was just in this state of almost near death where he just knew his time was ticking. So he was just holding on for hope through Caroline.
Yeah.
So moving on into the next big section of the game is when you go to Manhattan, New York. And now if you remember, New York was nuked by the Nazis to end the war, basically like how World War II was in real life, right? In Japan. So Nazis nuke Manhattan, so it's just a debris. The whole city is in shambles, just wreckage everywhere, and that's pretty much the first big fight of going through New York.
Mm-hmm. I remember. Yeah, because you fight one of those big robot guys, right?
Yeah, and the whole point of this mission is to get to a survival group that they tell you about.
Yeah, trying to like locate them and bring them back.
Mm-hmm.
I remember there was a very cool level in Manhattan. They did a lot in Manhattan with exploring like verticality with the level. So I remember there was a level where you're pretty much for most of the level you're inside of like a skyscraper. I don't know, maybe a skyscraper, an office building or something, and you can almost kind of get lost in this. Yeah,
guilty.
Because there's so many levels that you go up and down, and there's ruins, so there's like ramps and there's random holes where you fall down and like can go different ways. Like so, I thought that was really cool because it wasn't even a big space that you were in. It was just the way they handled it more on an up and down level instead of a horizontal way. So I thought that was really cool. Because I remember there was one of those like lieutenants or commanders or whoever those people are, where it shows you how close you are to them, and it kept saying I was close to him, but I couldn't see him. I'm like, where the heck is this guy? And it turned out he was like above me, but I had to like drop down some hole. So it was like really cool, kind of how they designed that level.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting too. I did get lost one time. I don't know if it's like the first time we were in that area, but I remember I was just like, "Oh, where do I go? Like, I don't know if I'm supposed to be falling down this hole or not." Like,
Yeah, they really put some time into that one.
I actually have a side note saying like going over wreckage was frustrating at times because like Blazkowicz picked weird times when he wanted to climb over things and be able to jump over things. Like it was a clear like I could jump over this obstacle. Why are we not jumping over this obstacle?
Why can I not jump over this? Yeah.
That got a little frustrating in that scene, at the Manhattan part. So you find the survival group, which brings us to a major character in Grace.
Yes.
How did you feel about Grace?
She just seemed like this kind of really what's the word I'm looking for? Just really like driven, motivated to, she was a part of a resistance group. They were just like Blazkowicz trying to take America back. But yeah, she's really like rough around the edges and like doesn't give a crap about anyone, that kind of thing. Like
she's a very powerful, female lead role.
Yep.
She kind of like she was a really confusing character for me. She was just really rough at times, and like she suddenly just was the leader of the whole group, and they kind of just let it happen. Yeah, like,
they come back, and she's the one kind of giving orders, and
she's calling all the shots.
Yeah,
from the get-go when she walks on that ship, like all of her crew come in, take over the ship, and like there was no pushback. Just like, okay, Grace is our new Caroline. She is the leader now.
Yeah, she just took over.
She had all the ideas, and I wasn't crazy about her only because I did feel like she just kind of came in and did things her way.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it was a cool dynamic of different relationships that were on the ship because everyone was so. It was kind of almost like a GTA moment where, like, the character development and all the characters were so like unique and different, and then having them all interact together was just like always entertaining because everyone was just doing their weird quirky stuff that they do,
and then everyone's got this powerful ego and like, hey, I'm just here to survive, and then they get in fights all the time because they got their ideas and Grace has got her ideas, and then the whole time she's sitting there calling Sigrun a Nazi and Sigrun's getting upset, which we'll get to a little bit later, kind of comes to a head. But so we get introduced to Grace, and they call him Super Spesh, which is basically I don't know if they're her husband or what.
I don't think they said that.
I can't really remember the exact relationship, but Grace has a kid, and so she's very protective over this baby with Super Spesh, and they kind of lead the team. And the funny part is, I believe it was Super Spesh when they get on the ship. If you remember this scene, he finds the toilet. Yeah,
and he freaks out. He's like, "Oh my god, a working toilet!"
He gets really excited and everything. I thought that was a pretty good comedic relief moment.
That's what I was going to say. There is a lot of nice comedic relief sections because if you took the game without those sections, it's like a really serious game. So it is nice to have those little like goofy moments.
Right. Then the next section, after you kind of get introduced to the new team with you, is you have to find the nuclear warhead in the ship. So you go through.
Okay.
I thought that was a great action sequence. I had a lot of fun with that. I thought that was a good like. This game always did a really good job of making you feel like you're doing something important, not just. I heard that there's something. Let's go fight a bunch of Nazis. There was always a point.
Right, yeah.
There's always a point to going to get the warhead, find the survival group, get the codes, these kind of things. And I thought they did a really good job throughout the whole game of driving the story in the gameplay.
Yeah, you always felt like there was a purpose.
So after that scene, you go to Roswell.
Yeah.
This is the moment. So
this is like where you like the game was already crazy as it was, and then you figure out where you're going now, and it's like it just picks up even more again.
Right. Yeah, because going from New York, the nuke wreckage scene, and just everything's in shambles, and just the whole place is destroyed. And then you go to Roswell. Then the whole reason you're going to Roswell is because they have a huge Ober Commando Center. The Nazis have like a hidden command center. In Roswell, Area 52, they call it. So Grace sends Super Special because I think he lives there. So he has like a place.
He's got like a little bunker.
Yeah, like a little hideout in
Right.
Area 52 or in Roswell.
Well, it's like a diner.
Right.
Like, yeah, that's the front. Is a diner.
Yeah, so you go to Roswell, and I want to talk about Roswell because I thought this was awesome. You get there, and there's like a parade going on for the Nazis, and like the whole town is functioning just fine. And I was just so taken aback at this scene about how much the Americans have just bought into this Nazi lifestyle.
Yeah. They've given up. I think there's even a little note that, because you find those little newspaper clippings and things like that around. And there's like a note or something. I think it was like a news story where the president of the United States is telling the people of America, like, stop resisting, just do what they tell you to do, and you'll live a happy life or something like that. So I mean, it's just like everyone, like you said, they just totally gave in to this new way of life, and it's kind of like, the Germans are walking around asking people like, show me your papers and stuff.
Right.
It's just like, but everyone seems so happy. Like it's wild.
And there was a couple things I want to talk about here. I walked around every corner, every crevice of that area, that little town area, and I saw a newspaper article that said, since the Nazis took over, there was a study done that happiness, 98% of Americans are happy under Nazi rule, like something like that. And it was just like, oh my God, like this is just, like the year is 1961, and Nazis are just in full control, and everyone's just happy, like they deal with it. And there was another. I stopped and listened to two different conversations. The first conversation I listened to was two Ku Klux Klan members were talking to a Nazi guard, and like they claimed that they knew how to speak German, and then the Nazi guard was like, okay, well, tell us something in German. And then they're like, and they kind of like just they say something like a goodbye phrase or something simple in German, and the Nazi's like, okay, like, we'll let you go. And then there was another one that I listened to where this girl was getting married, I believe, and I don't know if you overheard this conversation at all. I don't think you did.
Sounds familiar.
But she was getting married, and there was a reason that she didn't want to get married on a certain day because she wanted to respect some German holiday, something like that, where it's just like everyone's just fixing their life around this Nazi lifestyle.
Yeah. And they hammer it home.
Yeah, and it was really cool. Like I just thought, I was like, oh my God, like this is so bizarre just seeing this.
I think Blazkowicz makes comment, like, he talks to himself. He's making comments like, these Americans getting all cozy with these Nazis and all this stuff. Like, he was just so frustrated.
Yeah, I thought that was just crazy to see. Awesome. I love that part of the game. I wish there was just piles and piles of articles to read because I just thought it was so interesting about how it all came to be, just all the history behind it. So then you go into this diner, and there is Super Special behind the counter working, and then there's this Nazi commander that comes in. Now, in this scene, I thought this scene was one of the best scenes in a game.
It was very tense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I felt very tense during it. It had a very similar feel to the scene. I don't think you've seen Spider-Man Homecoming.
I have not.
Okay, in Spider-Man Homecoming, there's this scene where they're in this car. I don't want to spoil it, but they're in this car, and it's just, you could feel like, oh my God, this is so tense. I had the same feeling in this scene in the diner, because what happens is you're sitting at the counter, and the Nazi commander, and obviously BJ's pictures everywhere. He's like the most wanted guy in the world.
Yeah.
So the Nazi commander's looking at him. He's like, your face looks familiar. And if you're looking behind the Nazi, there's TVs with his picture on it.
Right.
And he's just like, you look really familiar. And then it's just like, oh my God. Like
I think he asked him for his papers.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. He starts asking for papers. And then I think he's about to leave because he asked Super Special for like a strawberry smoothie or something. Yeah. And then he makes it for him, and I think he's about to leave, but then he sees like the poster on the wall, and then he turns around and he's about to like take you into custody, but then I think the Super Special shoots him in the head or something.
Yeah, I believe he does.
And then it just goes off from there.
So from there you go into Super Special's hideout where he's freaking out about aliens and
he's got all these theories and stuff,
extraterrestrial beings and all this crazy stuff. He's kind of just one loose cannon at the time.
Yeah, he's like this like hippie, like philosopher or something.
And Blazakovich the whole time was just like, "What are you talking about?" Like,
Yeah, right. Which way do I go?
yeah, what do I have to do? So then you go into Area 52. I really like. I mean, there's a lot. I don't want to sit there and talk about every single section, but there was a section in that part where you're on a train.
Yeah,
like the speed train or whatever they call it. I thought that was a really cool action sequence.
It was a really good action sequence, and it's like they don't really set them up as like they don't tell you this is going to be an amazing set piece or something. Like you just walk into it and it starts happening, and you're like, oh man, this is really cool. Like, and I think I talked about that a little bit on the non-spoiler review. Is like the game doesn't boast having like amazing action sequences. They just give them to you, and then it's up to you to like make what you want of it. And yeah, something like the being on that train was really cool because it was just different. It just kind of changed the pacing of the game a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. I thought, and it was so linear, but I still felt like I could either go underneath. I don't know if you caught that. There was like little tunnels underneath. You could go and sneak behind them, and there was different weapons and different types of enemies. And I just thought it was a really cool sequence. I really enjoyed that part. I didn't feel like I was just going from room to room just killing people. I felt like it was interesting, and like the whole game was awesome, but that was just a really cool action sequence. So then you get into Roswell, and you do what you got to do. You blow up the command center.
Yeah.
Then here's where it gets really deep. Yeah, you plant the nuke. Here's where it gets really deep. You go to BJ's hometown of Mesquite, Texas. This was a powerful, powerful level.
Yeah, I think the entire level consisted of like flashback sequences. So, when you get to your house, your old house, it's like the objective is to go into like the barn. And then as soon as you open the door, there's like a flashback of, you with the girl. And I think they're trying to rescue like a frog or something.
No, just like a old, or they're a rat.
It's a rat. Yeah. And she thought it died, but then it ended up surviving. And it's kind of giving you some insight into what his upbringing was like. And then, as you're making your way up closer and closer to the house, you keep having flashbacks of you with that little black girl, and they're like really getting along and talking about, being together, like in a relationship and all this stuff. And then you get into the house, and I know that's the major part you're trying to get to.
Yeah.
And you can handle that one.
Right. Well, the whole like the intensity between BJ and his dad was that he didn't want him hanging out with this girl that all these flashbacks are centered around, and to a point where I almost felt like there was a flashback with the girl, and BJ says like, "Mom, you always told me that I could marry whoever I want. Like, I want to marry this girl." Like, for a second, I'm like, "Hold on, wait, does he want to find this girl? Like this girl from her childhood?" Like, for a second, I started thinking, I'm like, wait, no, there's Anya.
What is he doing here?
Yeah, like he wants to marry Anya. That's what he's talking about. But it just the way that kind of happened, I'm like, wait, hold on, he wants this girl from his childhood.
Yeah.
But then you get into the house, and this is where it gets really crazy. Is the dad's in the room waiting for you, and he
with a shotgun.
They have this just crazy exchange. The voice acting was out of control, amazing in this scene. It felt like a real movie.
Real movie, yep, it did. And the dad, you would think, I don't know, maybe this dad misses his son or is happy that he's alive. And it turns out that the dad is just as much of a jerk as he was in the beginning of the game when Blazkowicz was a kid. And he talks to him about, and through talking, Blazkowicz puts together that the dad sold out his mom because his mom was Jewish.
Oh, yeah.
And he sold her out so that he could live a good life because the Germans would reward him for turning her in. So he basically gave mom away to, we think, probably just get killed or tortured or something. And then we find out that, they start to fight. And that's a really crazy scene because you actually have to interact and like melee dad, and you end up killing him with your axe that you have, your little hatchet thing.
Yeah.
But then we find out that dad was recording, or he had called like, I don't know, a Nazi officer or something. And so they were hearing the entire conversation. So they knew that Blazkowicz was there. So he knew. I think he tells Blazkowicz he knew that he would come back home eventually or something.
He knew he was in the area because I think they knew what happened at Roswell, so he knew like, okay, he's in the area, he'll be here. And the whole time leading up to that moment, like I thought to myself, the dad was always so hard on him as a kid, and I just thought it was because he was soft as a kid and he wasn't tough. Like, man, he's got to be semi-happy that he's like this American war hero. He's just this Nazi killing machine. But then, like you said, he gets there and nope, like he's disappointed in him. He thinks he's done all this wrong, and then he sets him up for the Nazis. And then there's a crazy sequence where the house gets lifted up in the air.
I was gonna say that part was amazing.
Yeah,
it was super. Because like the level like flips on you, and you have to like find your way around the house while like these cranes are picking you up into the air.
So you're basically like walking on the walls trying to navigate through your house sideways. And then I don't know if you remember, I don't know if you caught this. There's a part where the house gets lifted and it goes on its side, and then his dad's body just falls out into the sky.
Oh,
you didn't
I don't think I noticed that.
Yeah, you could see the dad's body just slide all the way off the level.
Oh man,
and you just see it falling down. It's
I
crazy.
guess that's what he deserves, right?
Yeah, so I thought that was interesting. So then the game just gets extremely real from here. Frau captures BJ again, and they get into a jail cell where Super Special comes in, and he's like, hey, I'm going to break you out. Nope.
Right. This elaborate plan.
Yeah, not successful. Frau knew it the whole time, so she kills him. So then they bring him to a courtroom, and this is where it gets crazy because you don't know this, but you get in this huge action sequence.
Like massive.
Right. How much did you like that action sequence?
It was difficult, too. It was difficult, man. You're in this courtroom, so picture like, I don't know if you've ever seen like on C-SPAN or like CNN, those like live feeds of people in the courtroom, or in the Congress room or whatever, and like that's what it looks like. There's just a lot of like desks and pews and stuff like that. And they just send like an endless wave of enemies at you because in this sequence, Blazkowicz is able to like strongman his way out of his braces that he's being held in, and then he kills a guard and takes his gun, and then you're just off to the races. So you're just killing like probably like 100 enemies. Like there's a ton, and then
big enemies and just normal enemies. It was
really
heavy.
Tough.
I remember when he broke out of the braces and like you have to go get a guard. I'm like, oh my god, this is happening. Like I'm breaking out. Like, this is real. Like I'm really doing this right now. Like oh my god. Like
I remember sprinting around and just mashing square so I could pick up any items that I came across because I killed so many people. And then like you were saying, you go through this whole sequence, and then once you get into a room and you see like his mom. Yeah. And you're like, wait, what's going on?
Intimate moment with his mom about how he doesn't want to do this anymore.
Yeah, that was really cool too. He like cuddles up to his mom like a baby, like he was crying almost, and he's like, I can't do this anymore. I don't have anything left in me. And then she kind of like gives him a little speech to motivate him, and then that sequence ends and you find out that he was like daydreaming of how he would break out, and you're back in the braces again in the courtroom. And I was like, holy cow.
That moment was really deep because he had the moment with his dad, like the closure of like, I've ended this chapter. Right. And then I think that was a closure for him maybe. Since
it was, the end of the interaction. He didn't have to deal with dad anymore. And
the interaction with his dad led him to believe that, mom's gone. Right. So I think that little dream was him saying like, protect me, or like I don't want to do this, like I just want to make you happy, and because
I need your help.
She even says to him like, I cried that you left, like I was so disappointed that you left. And I think he had that guilt of, oh my god, like I let her down by leaving for this war, and now I can't even find her and I can't tell her
it's my fault that she got into that.
So I think that was more of just like a closure dream sequence of just like him allowing himself to speak to his mom through this dream.
Yeah, I totally would agree with that. A lot of kind of like symbolism going on.
It was a really deep moment, I thought. And then like you said, you wake up and you're still in the courtroom, and then
you can't break out.
They take you to the execution.
Oh my goodness!
Sequence. I thought, oh my god! Like I was the whole time.
I didn't know.
So
I know.
Let's just walk our listeners through the execution sequence real fast. And like I said, if this is a spoiler, so you probably played this, so I'm not going to go into extreme detail, but she cuts off BJ's head. And
just straight up.
The head falls, and it looks like, okay, like, what the heck? He's gone.
Right. It's over.
Yeah. And then so they
it's
have
just
a little,
another dream. Yeah.
They have a little contraption that catches his head, and then they sub out a fake head to make it look like, yep, his head's gone. And they take it back, and the whole team is back there, you know, Seth and Anya and all them, and they put his head in this container, and they hook it up and get oxygen back to the brain, and so they stitch it back to a new body. But that whole sequence was
insane.
I was out of my mind.
Well, it's insane because Frau Engel like takes you out like Hunger Games style in front of like a million people.
The whole world's watching on TV.
Yeah, everyone's like cheering and stuff, and then she just literally takes like an axe or like a sword to his head, and she has to hit it like 4 times for his head to actually detach from his body. And like the whole time, every time it hits, you're like, oh my goodness, like what is happening? And then his head falls like off the like edge of the building down into something where apparently there's like a sensor that makes sure it's like his head. Mm-hmm. And then they set up a little like chopper to grab him, bring him back, put him in like a test tube, and then they're like asking you to like blink if you can hear them. And then it's just insane.
Well, leading up to that moment, since we talked about all the times where he's like, I'm dying, like I knew something was gonna happen. I knew
to like enhance him.
He was gonna. Well, not that. I just thought he was gonna die at the end of this game. Like, something's gonna happen. He's gonna die at some point, and I just did not know it was gonna go down like that. Because I thought as his head was getting chopped off, I'm like, this is happening. Like,
it's over.
The main character of Wolfenstein is dying. Like, what are they going to do? Like, the game's not over yet. There's absolutely no closure on this. Like, am I going to take over as a different character? You know, what's going to happen from here? But then they stitch his head to a new body. Is like German super soldier.
Superhero,
Yeah. Like then you have to pick between 3 abilities.
Yes.
The 3 abilities were either the ram ability, the height ability where you get really tall, or the basically like a stretch ability or a shrink.
You can you can get through like really tiny spaces or something.
I personally thought that one was really dumb.
Yeah, because it talked about like you start to lose oxygen or something, so it like starts affecting your health. And I was like, no, thank you. I don't want to worry about that.
I wasn't crazy about that one. I went with the ram. What did you go with?
I went with the ram as well.
Okay, and it just allows you to basically tackle your enemies. It just sounded like, I'll be in some tight squeezes where I'll just have to kind of just bulldoze people. So I did choose that one. And then after that, so you kind of get used to your new body where you get practice ramming people and stuff like that. And then the next big sequence is going to find, well, there's 2 sequences. I don't want to go into too much detail about these sequences. So I don't want this to run too long here because there's some big moments I still want to talk about. You have to get this New Orleans dossier from Manhattan, which is it's basically for Grace wanted it to help you out throughout the game, and then you go to New Orleans to find Horton and his survival group, and then they kind of throw in another character or another survival group.
Yeah. That New Orleans had a cool sequence where you get to, those big robot things that look like dogs or something. They're the big one. You get to ride one. Yeah, you get to ride one and kind of just go through the streets and just demolish everything. And that was a cool sequence.
At first, when I got on the Panzerhound, I'm like, this is going to be lame. Like, whenever they throw gimmicky stuff like that, 8 hours into a game, it's just like, this is not going to go well. But
it's like a tank mission.
Yeah, I thought it was good. I thought it was fun. It wasn't complicated. It was just basically, it's a flamethrower. That's all you really got. I hate it when they throw in a whole new thing like that 8 hours into a game and you got to learn, wait, what shoot? I got rockets. I got machine guns. I got this. I got that.
Yeah.
It was super simplistic, so I really enjoyed that about it. So you get this group, huge battle to get out of there with this Horton survival group, and then the game takes it up another level. So you have to get these Odin codes to disable the defense systems on this Frau Engel's ship.
Yes.
In order to get those codes, they are hidden on Venus, their new base. Because if you remember from New Order,
secret base.
If you remember from New Order, they have their base on the moon. So since now that that's gone, they're like, let's go to Venus.
Go to Venus. That makes sense, right?
So were you excited when they were like, let's go to Venus?
I thought that was really cool because I forgot that in that game, even though it's like, I know it's this alternate universe, but it's like time period sensitive, but at the same time, they have these weird sci-fi elements where it's like, yeah, we can travel to Venus real quick.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like there's no problem. We have the technology for that. So even though it's 1961 or whatever, I mean, it's like pretty. It's just those cool moments where all of a sudden, yeah, the whole game just changes now because now you're on a different planet.
As another dimension. So the whole premise around getting to Venus is you're this movie actor trying to portray the role of BJ Blazkowicz, and so there's you and 3 other movie actors there. So you're in this room, and they're all auditioning for this role, so you have to like act out scenes, but in comes Adolf Hitler, old and crippled and sick and
it's insane,
gross. Like that moment when he walks in, like I literally
he's like
just
spitting in coffee.
I literally just chilled. I'm like, oh my god, it's actually Hitler.
It was wild. I didn't know. I don't even know if a game has ever like created Adolf Hitler like that. Like, I mean, you like interact with him.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, he's off in the distance. Like he's in your face talking to you. Like
he cuts like a 5-minute promo.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just him saying a few things. It's him in the spotlight having interactions and doing Nazi things where he's so paranoid that he's all old and paranoid that, oh my god, why are these actors here? They're spies, and he just kills one at random, like, yo, you're a spy, and shoots him. You could just tell, like, just it's Hitler, old and paranoid,
like crazy man,
all get out, and he's just, what is everyone doing here? Stop looking at me, you know.
Yeah, and then I think the other guy tries to do a line, and he's like, nope.
Yeah, just shoots him. So that's down to you and another guy, and you do the scene like brilliantly. So then he kills the other actor.
Right,
it's like perfect, and he kills the actor. And then there's a funny trophy in that part where, before you act out the scene, he's just so sick and old and gross, and he lays on the ground.
Yeah.
And if you get up, tell me what you do.
You can kick Hitler in an attempt to kill him, but so when you kick him, he doesn't die, but you get a trophy for it, and the guards just like shoot you dead right away.
You have to redo it.
Yeah.
But I thought that was cool. I love that was like a hidden trophy there where you could.
It was awesome.
I love it that they gave you the option to kick him, and then you fail the mission if you do it. But I'm like, oh, that felt good.
Yeah, like I don't care.
Yeah.
You had it coming.
So I thought that was really cool, and just
it was.
Seeing Hitler was so unforgettable.
And he looked like really good. Like his character model was really good.
They aged him
that's what made it
perfectly.
extra.
Like from 20 years, you know, he's gonna be pretty old, and he's all old and gross and sick and puking all over the ground.
Yeah, he's like puking and stuff.
So then you just basically fight through Venus and get these codes to disable the system.
Yeah.
And then you get back to the ship, and let's start kind of winding this down. They have this big party since they got the codes, and it was BJ's birthday. They throw a big birthday party, and here's where I want to talk about the big differences between playing as Fergus and Wyatt, where after the party, they're like, all right, let's go do this last big hurrah raid. Well, Fergus is missing his arm. Like I said, he has this robotic arm, and so he's missing this arm. So the whole premise around it is like, okay, I got to find Fergus's arm. What did you do at that part?
So since I saved Wyatt, we woke up because we were all drunk and hungover. We woke up and they could not find Wyatt. So it's similar in the sense of trying to find something, but instead of an arm, I was trying to find Wyatt himself, the actual guy. The big difference was Wyatt is this like psychedelic, drugged out guy throughout the entire game. So he's always talking about just random space things and stuff that doesn't make any sense, alternate universes, all this weird stuff. And so they say, oh, he's gone missing. We need to find him because we're about to, move on to the next thing here. And so my mission was to find him. So actually you find him. He's in the shooting range that's on the ship. But he's like under the stairs. And it was a weird way to find him. I had to like go through some tunnels that I had never found before. So I don't even know if they were already there to begin with or not, or if the game kind of adds it in like for you to get to him. But he's down there and you find him and he's all just like tweaking out. he's playing with like a little toy or something, and starts talking to Blazkowicz about just weird off the wall stuff, and Blazkowicz is like, come on, like it's okay, we'll get you topside. He's just trying to be calm with him, and then he ends up taking out a gun. Wyatt takes out a gun, and he wants to shoot himself because he's kind of tired of all these like weird things that he keeps going through, and Blazkowicz ends up having to like tussle with him for a second, and then he ends up punching him out and like knocking him out. And then the next scene is like Wyatt waking up in like the medical bay of the ship, and he's like clean. They found out he had been like doing drugs and stuff, so he's kind of clean now, and he's like thinking more clearly, and he's just like, "Thanks for doing that, Blazkowicz." And Blazkowicz is like, "I'm sorry, I had to knock you out there, buddy." And it's kind of like a funny scene, but it finally brings him back to like normal.
Yeah, for Wyatt, it was he lost his arm because he can't control his. I'm sorry, Fergus. He can't control his arm throughout the whole game. It always just starts slapping him and doing all this crazy things. So there's a moment where the party, he wants to go ask the girl for to go on a date, or like be his girlfriend or whatever, because I don't know if you can go dating when the whole world's in a war. But so he wants to take this girl out, and his arm touches her breast, and so then he takes his arm off and starts going crazy, and then you find it and move on. But there was one thing I wanted to ask you about before the party sequence. There's a part where Grace starts freaking out about Sigrun being a Nazi, and Sigrun gets really upset, and she's like, "Stop calling me a Nazi." And then she gets upset with the other guy that she hooked up with for talking to a girl. Were you worried at all that Sigrun was going to do something to kind of what's the word I'm looking
for?
Sabotage the whole operation? Because I was.
I think I had not like a terrible notion, but I think I had a little bit of a, just that quick feeling of like, oh man, maybe she's been helping Frau Engel like this whole time something. Yeah. I did have that moment,
especially with Grace calling her Nazi, and she's getting mad. I'm like, she's gonna, because her whole
she's
job,
so defensive.
Her whole job was to decode those Odin codes from Venus to help them in the future. And I'm like, she's upsetting her, and she's not going to do that. Like, she has a huge job. Like, all this work is for nothing if she does not do this. And I'm like, oh, this is not going to end well. But then
doesn't she like choke Grace out or something?
She slaps her, and then she does choke her out. You're right. She chokes her out. And then almost, I thought she was going to kill her at one point.
Yeah. And then Grace is kind of just like, sorry.
Yeah, and respects her from there. She's like, no, you're coming with us. Like, that was awesome. Right. So I thought I was really scared that Sigrun was just going to be like, nope, I'm going back to Nazi side. If you want to call me a Nazi, I'm going to act like a Nazi. So then the final battle happens where you go onto Frau Engel's ship, and you fight through a lot. So there wasn't the traditional boss fight as the New Order had, but it was more of just big fights.
Yeah, you got to that one section where it was like those two huge like robots. You were like on top of the ship, so you were like outside, and there was other random enemies while you were fighting the big two robots. So it was a pretty like chaotic scene. They introduced that new weapon where it was laser, and then it kind of exploded. I don't know if you checked that out or not. There's this like heavy weapon that you had to like charge it up, and then it would shoot them.
Here's the funny part. I actually looked it up. If you saved Wyatt at the beginning, your first gun is like that grenade launcher almost, I think.
Yeah, I did have that thing.
If you save Fergus, your first gun is that laser gun that you're talking about.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I got it at the very end.
There's like two big lasers. There's a laser gun that you start off if you save Fergus. Then there's like the big one that the big guys carry, but it's very similar to the laser gun that I'm talking about. But yeah, that might be like a new weapon to you because you.
Right, it was new to me.
Wyatt. So and I liked and here's a big choice that developers have to make when they're creating like the final level is, do you want to go with a boss fight, or do you want to give it like let's do just something kind of epic, like a big moment to end it? And I thought they did it well, because I don't like it, and I'll talk about Uncharted for just a second. Uncharted had boss fights at the end of the games for 1 through 3 where the entire game goes without a single boss fight, and I don't like it when games just
final encounter.
Throw you into a boss fight when you haven't done any boss fights at all.
Yeah, and they were always these weird, like, quick time event type things, or like you had to recognize patterns or something. But yeah, like you were saying, Wolfenstein, it was like just a lot of action leading up to what was the inevitable scene of like getting to Frau Engel. So yeah, it was. They really made you feel like, okay, we're getting closer now because the security is significantly bumped up, and we're fighting people that we've never fought before, and it still gives you that freedom to like tackle that battle however you want.
Yeah, I thought that was cool. I liked it that it was just, let's just have a really good fight, good clean fight, and they did that scene well. And then right before the final scene, which we'll talk about in just a second, if you remember, BJ opens the door.
I do remember this.
Anya comes in and prevents him from dying, and her shirt catches on fire.
Just a weird scene, man. Like she's pregnant, like we said, and Blazkowicz is about to get killed because like this door opens and there's a bunch of enemies standing right there staring at you, and you're kind of sitting there thinking, oh man, here we go again. Like I'm gonna have to fight all these people or something. And then she comes out of there and throws like a couple grenades in there, but she like covers Blazkowicz over in this corner, and the grenades go off. And when they come back, it's just like a pool of blood everywhere. Yeah. And she's topless, and they show
completely nude. Completely topless.
Blood, but there's like blood dripping all over her, and it's just like this really wild scene.
From the ceiling, like falling on her, and like BJ's just looking up at her, and she's got like machine guns, like Rambo style,
double guns going. Yeah, it was a really bizarre scene, but that's like that captures the essence of Wolfenstein right there for you.
It was a good way to go out and just like blood splattering all over her.
It is a wild scene. Yeah, she's screaming and stuff.
That was a huge curveball. And then the game takes you into the final scene where Frau Engel's basically on like a TV show doing an interview, and you have to go in and kill her on TV, live television, so everyone can see like the rebellion's happening. And here's where I want to have a good talk for a couple minutes. What do you think will happen? So let me just recap again. At the end of the game, BJ kills Frau Engel on TV in front of the whole world to see, and they kind of just leave it at that. And then Grace and all them come in and give little promos about how the rebellion's happening, everyone get on board.
Get on board, yeah.
And then the game ends. What do you think is going to happen?
The only thing I can really see happening is just more kind of like resistance fighting, I guess, and having Blazkowicz kind of lead the way, and kind of stand up and be this kind of new leader, I guess, because he's got this brand new shiny body, and he's feeling like $1 million, and he just killed Frau Engel. And I think they can probably do a lot of cool playing with Americans who are not willing to become resistance still. And I think that's something they could explore, where they're actually having to persuade Americans to fight back. But yeah, I don't know, unless they introduce, I'm sure they're going to have to kind of introduce some new villain of some sort, like a new top tier bad person, I would think.
I think it will just be, like you said, there will be some Nazis, and then there'll be some people, Americans, who are like, I've bought into the Nazi lifestyle. Like, this is better life for us.
Right.
Where the team is going to have to fight Americans and Nazis as a unit, and I think that villain will come from an American person. That's what my prediction would be.
That would be Wolfenstein esque if they had you having to like fight an American because he won't turn back with you.
Right, I think that's what it. Because there can't just be some Nazi. Oh, here's another Nazi general who's just coming out of nowhere. And I think it makes perfect sense. The game was set in America. Like the whole America has bought into this Nazi lifestyle. So then here comes Blazkowicz messing it all up and saying, "All right, guys, let's revolt against this." And no, we're good.
Right. They might be angry with him.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That I think there would be some resistance from them.
Yeah, I could see that. That would be interesting.
Do you think there will be a third? Do you think there's
got to be?
They left it very, very open for there to be a third.
It would be silly, I think, for them not to, because I think, New Order did so well, and I think this game did even better. So I can't imagine them not jumping into another one.
That's as open-ended as you can leave it to lead, say, hey, there's going to be another game. Like, there was no closure on the Nazi storyline besides Frau Engel is down.
Right. And they basically cut a promo, like you're saying, they're all cutting promos at the end, basically for us. They were like cutting a promo for us to like stay tuned, kind of. Because I think in my game, Wyatt actually cut the promo at the end.
Fergus cut a promo too. So did Grace.
Yeah, it was Wyatt for me, and it was like a really good.
Grace did cut a promo for you?
No, Grace did a little bit too.
Yeah.
But Wyatt's was really good though, and it was cool though because Wyatt throughout the whole game like was just talking gibberish because he was always like under the influence of something. So when he was actually clean, he had this like really intelligent speech that he gave about how, and it was all motivational and inspirational. So that was really cool too to see him finally like having a clear head, and he's like, we need to take back what's ours, and yeah, I think it was just a promo for us to be like, stay tuned, it's good. We'll be back,
There's got to be another one. This left it so open for another game.
I don't even know if they have another game that they like worked on. I mean, like, or that they would have in development right now.
And then after the credits, Blazakovich proposes to Anya. Yeah. So then that's a happy ending on top of the death of Frau Engel, which I thought was great. And like I said, like we said on the non-spoiler review on episode 32, we both gave it a 9 out of 10. Got to play this game.
It's superb.
If you're feeling like you don't want to play it because of the New Order, and like, it's fine. Like, you just watch that opening cutscene and then just play Wolfenstein 2. But it is a 9 out of 10. Do you have any closing thoughts? I thought we covered the whole game, our thoughts on it pretty well.
I think the only thing is this game's, I think it's good for like the business in general, because they took the heights of like what a single player story first person shooter could be. I mean, a lot of first person shooter campaigns are usually afterthoughts because they're more worried about the multiplayer. This is a single player only game, which is already a risk in today's market, but I mean, obviously it paid off for them to spend that amount of time on the story, and it's like a masterpiece, like other companies need to look at that and kind of get inspired by it.
Yeah, it's gutsy to release a single player only game with no multiplayer component whatsoever. I think
Bethesda has like a campaign now, save single player games or something like that.
I fully plan to buy this game on the Switch though. Once it launches on the Switch, I want to play it again.
It's very exciting that it's coming to the Switch.
So we'll keep the tradition going real quick. Let's just knock out top 3 moments from this game real fast.
Okay.
Do you want to start us off with your number 3 moment?
I'm going to say number 3 moment, even though it's crazy, is probably that opening sequence with Caroline getting her head chopped off and then you having to choose who you want to save, because it's kind of like a shocking moment, and then all of a sudden they're telling you to choose now, and you're like, oh my God, who do I choose? And like, I know someone's going to die here. Like, what do I do? So yeah, that's my number 3 moment.
Okay. My number 3 moment would probably be just the final battle. I thought that was just done really well.
Yeah.
Really, really fun final fight. It felt like, and I'll even leak it into the, I'm going to take that back. My number 3 moment was Roswell.
Okay.
That's my number 3. I'm going to take it back. I was like, I'm on the fence. No, my number 3 is Roswell. What's your number 2?
I think my number 2 moment is that like courtroom battle, because that was just so like high octane, fast paced. That was really cool. My
number 2 moment was the Hitler moment. Just seeing Hitler, I thought that was just out of this world. What is your number?
I was going to say that's my number 1. My number 1 is Hitler.
Yeah, I would agree with that, but my number 1 is the house sequence, that whole...
That was very cool.
Dad and BJ moment. I thought that was just done so well. It felt like just real acting, a real movie, and just all the emotion was there. It was just so deep and powerful. I thought it was so good. And the Hitler was probably, call it a tie.
Yeah,
the Hitler scene was awesome.
Yeah.
Can't dispute that. All right, so that was Wolfenstein 2 spoiler review. Please let us know what you thought. I had a lot of fun talking about this game. There's so much to talk about. Luckily, we kept it under 2 hours, so that's pretty good. Do you have any closing thoughts? You all good?
That's it. That's
All right.
Wolfenstein 2.
Wolfenstein 2. That was a bonus episode for the week. Hopefully, we start giving more of those kind of full spoilers where we just unleash on one game for an hour or so.
Yeah.
So that was fun. That was episode 33. Thank you so much for listening. See you next week.